Okay, it says I'm live, so let me know when I'll drop something. Let me know whether I'm live or not. Yeah, it's showtime, folks. So everything is happening here. Um, Give me a shout out. Let me know what the weather's like where you are, because right here, right now, it is 1 degree centigrade, and even the cats won't go outside in this weather. We opened the door to let them out. Luna and Jill just went, no fucking way. And they did not go out. So it's one of those mornings. I've got the heater on under the desk. I'm caffeinated. And there we go. Dick's here in warm and sunny Dover. Dodge Morgan's here. Hello from the UK. It's 9 p.m. No, it's not. It's 7 a.m. But yeah, cold here. Coldest it's been this year, which is a little bit egregious. Don't like that at all. I'm just going to see what I dropped. Hang on a second. Nothing important. But yeah, we're on definitely, Peter. But yeah, Melbourne at the moment, it sucks. And I'm having a bad morning, I'll be honest with you. I'm going to improve it. The live stream's going to go well. But I'm having a rough morning, and I will explain why. Yesterday, I did a vlog for the other channel, Terry Travels. And I've started my new project, which is to walk the whole upfield train line from upfield way up in the northern suburbs of Melbourne into Melbourne. And I'm doing it in stages the way I always do. And I did about a 5 kilometre walk yesterday. And I didn't gear up for it. I've been very slack and sedentary lately. And so I did the 5 kilometre walk, and I'm feeling it today. Yeah, I'm sore and sorry at the moment. But the video is all edited and it looks good. The video is going to work. But I'm feeling really sucky at the moment. Hi, Deb. How's things in Nipaluna? More than one ingestion is using the primary URL. Send one stream to the primary URL and one stream to somewhere else. 39 degrees centigrade in Clearwater, Florida, says Ralph. Yep. And Deb says it's fucking freezing in Nipaluna. And it is. Hi, D. Lee. Says hello from the heat. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Deb, what would it be like -2 down where you are? There'll be snow on the mountain before you know it down there. Kunyani, is it? I think that's the name of the mountain. But yeah, so got stuff to do today. I've got a haul. I'm going to do the haul I got from Dick and Carol in Dover, because apparently all of the op shops in that part of England are stacked with old movies. Peter says it's so cold here in Adelaide, the feral foxes are sleeping in. Yeah, screw foxes. People in like North America and in Europe love foxes. But in Australia, they're an introduced predator and they're a menace. In fact, I don't know whether they still have it, but they did have a bounty on foxes. And you could shoot them. And there used to be, years ago, you'd see a whole bunch of fox pelts hung on fences to dissuade other foxes from attacking chickens and lambs and other things. Dodge Morgan says, this Saturday science fiction pick was spot on. Thank you. Yeah, so sucky morning, sore muscles, foxes, cold weather. We're going to improve things. But Deb says it's currently 3 degrees in Nipaluna, but the apparent temperature is -1. It's 1 degree here in my part of Melbourne, and the apparent temperature is absolute zero. But yeah, glad you like the parcel city. Yeah, I did, and I've got it here. I'm going to show everybody all the cool Betty Davis you gave me, and the other stuff too. So we're going to do that as part of the morning. I'm going to do the things I've been watching that I'm not talking about in specific videos. So we've got a little bit of that. We've got a little question, which is always something that this is a subject that I always find kind of interesting. Excuse me while I put my feet up, because my feet are sore. It didn't damage anything on that walk, by the way, but the muscles have had a workout. And so I've got my deep heat. You guys have deep heat where you are? Got my deep heat to put on the sore muscles to knock down the inflammation. But yeah, lots of movie stuff to talk about. And I'll do the haul first. So we'll do Dick and Carol's haul, the generous haul from Dick and Carol. Let me just grab it all. And I'll move things aside on the desk. The desk here is always, like the rest of the man cave, it's always crowded with things. Deb says, I got breakfast done. Jeff's lunch is packed and I've climbed back into bed with the cat. Yeah, trying to get our cats to stay on the bed's a bit difficult. Occasionally, Luna will have a nap with me in the daytime, but we don't really get the cats overnight. They've got their own little nice hidey holes. Jill goes onto one of the couches. Luna goes onto the couches in the back room where all the DVDs and Blu-rays and 4Ks are. But apart from that, they don't tend to snuggle. D-Lee says, muscles often complain about being reminded of their function. Yeah, you're right. But I'm doing, that's part of the reason why I'm doing that video, is to get a little more ambulatory. And the problem with the upfield line is the first part of it, the first 5 kilometers of it, is like boring industrial stuff along Sydney Road. And I tried to zhuzh it up a bit. I've just finished editing the video. I tried to make it look more interesting than it is. But it's not an interesting part of Melbourne. It gets more interesting the closer we get to Melbourne. So when we go through Faulkner, we can go through Faulkner Cemetery, bunch of stuff like that. But the first part is just like a highway and lots of industrial shit. Damien says, our cats enjoy our bed. Okay. And yes, there's snow on Mount Wellington, Kunyani this weekend. Kissam is very snuggly in winter. Yeah, I think our cats would be more snuggly if they live where you live, Deb. But before I get to the haul from Dick and Carol, I did pick this up on 4K. Movie from the 1970s, Killer Cast. D-Lee says, I think you'll find it's a cat's bed. They just let you use it. Nah, not our beds. No one's. Roxy always loved a bedtime cuddle. Okay, cool. Our cats are just standoffish, I suppose. They're a little more beatnik. Picked up Prime Cut. Lee Marvin, Gene Hackman, Sissy Spacek. This is a Kino Lorber one. And I remember seeing it from a long time ago, directed by Michael Ritchie. It's got Angel Tompkins in it. And I bloody love Angel Tompkins. So it's on 4K, which is good because it means I don't have to, whoops, disc slipped out. 4K and Blu-ray, by the way. Good thing is I don't have to worry about region coding because that stuff just grinds my nuts. But yeah, I did want a copy of Prime Cut. I may well review it on the channel at some stage, but I picked it up quite cheaply. And like 70s action thrillers or crime things almost, I definitely dig. So I'm going to give that one a go. I may well do it later today if I don't collapse in bed. But yeah, so Dick and Carol's Hall. So I got this parcel from the UK. And I didn't know what was coming because they never tell me, which is lovely. And I really, really appreciated Dick and Carol that you send this stuff. But you never know what you're going to get. And I will start with the top and work my way down. Betty Davis, Paul Henry, directed by Irving Rapper. Now Voyager. I didn't have a copy of this. I don't have a shit ton of Betty Davis in the collection previously. I do have things like The Nanny, and I've got All About Eve, which I think is in here as well. Dodge Morgan says, Prime Cut is a heavy slice of meat, definitely not to be shown on TV in the UK anymore. Yeah, it is that. But yeah, so I've got Now Voyager, which is kind of cool. I really will dive into that. I think I'll do like a Betty Davis binge with this stuff. Then we get a later one, which has got Glenn Ford, Betty Davis, Hope Lang, and Arthur Connell in Frank Capra's Pocket Full of Miracles. When's this from? Does it going to tell me? Runs over 2 hours, which is unusual. But I got that one. I did get All About Eve. I'm going to check to see whether my old copy is as good as this one. And if it isn't, I'll just ditch it. I kind of like that cover better than I like the other one, but All About Eve is a favorite. I really enjoy it. I love the wicked bitchiness of it. Love the lesbian subtext, the whole lot. It's just a full package. And Addison DeWitt, played by George Sanders, is fantastic. Small role for Marilyn Monroe in this one as well. I'll put it this side because that way the light's not out of my face. But I've got All About Eve. Got Dark Victory as well. There's just so much stuff here. So I've got Dark Victory, which I haven't watched in a very long time. Davis is enchanted and enchanting, one of the most sensitive and haunting pictures of the season. So I've got that. Just to break things up a bit. Got I'm All Right, Jack, with Ian Carmichael, Peter Sellers, Terry Thomas, which is about unionism and working class. And that's Peter Sellers in character role. So I haven't seen I'm All Right, Jack for a long time. So I'm going to check that out. Weird thing is, if you open this up, right, there's Peter Sellers. Okay? Hold that picture in your mind. Here's what he looks like on the disc. He's had a glow up because it's just the generic image for the Peter Sellers collection. Betty Davis, Charles Boyer. Hi, Mose. All this in heaven too. So we've got that. We've got Paul Lucas and Betty Davis, Watching the Rhine, a Warner Brothers wartime picture. Warner Brothers was her studio. And she's really good in a movie called Thank Your Lucky Stars, where every Warner Brothers star, it was made in 1943, every Warner Brothers star does a little turn in Thank Your Lucky Stars. You got Errol Flynn singing. You got all sorts of, you got Ida Lupino doing dancing and singing. You got tons of stuff. Thank You Lucky Stars is one of my favorite, but I'm going to watch this one because I do like wartime era Warner Brothers movies. Betty Davis, George Brent, Miriam Hopkins, The Old Maid, which it's probably dated badly. We got Betty Davis, Paul Henry, Claude Rains again, Deception. That's like Deception. We got that. Betty Davis, Olivia de Havilland, George Brent, and Dennis Morgan in This Our Life. Don't know anything about this one. Hang on, let me get it actually on screen. Yeah, that's better. So we've got that one. This one, my friend Grant Watson says is a real banger. Betty Davis, Richard Todd, Joan Collins, The Virgin Queen, about Queen Elizabeth I. That side again. But yeah, that one I'm going to watch as well because why not? Here's a break. Joan Crawford, Jack Carson, Zachary Scott, who play great villains and had a fantastic mustache. Mildred Pierce. We've got a copy of Mildred Pierce. Then we've got some later Betty Davis in Hush, Hush, Sweet Charlotte. To go along with that, we've got Betty Davis and Joan Crawford in one of the great hagsploitation movies of the 1960s. Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. That's like Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, which I'm going to rewatch because it's such a gross film in so many ways. But I'm going to check that out. There's even more. I'm not finished yet. Leslie Howard and Betty Davis, Of Human Bondage, which is not what you think. It's not a bit of slap and tickle. Betty Davis in The Letter. And Greer Garson and Walter Pidgeon in Mrs. Miniver. There's a really funny thing. If you watch, Tubi's got this. If you watch Rowan and Martin's Laughing, one of the hosts they had they had a rotating series of guest stars on Laughing, and one of them was Greer Garson, and the Nazi guy played by Artie Johnson walks up to her and says, "I'm sorry we blew up your garden, Mrs. Minifer." So, gonna watch that and think of laughing while I'm doing it. So that's the haul from Dick and Carol, and thank you again, you guys. Fantastic haul. Really appreciate it. Love your support of the channel. Everything is Archie there. So yeah, the chat has frozen, which probably means you're all watching ads for Dick Pills and Insurance. I don't actually get those, but what do I get? I get lots and lots of AI business model ads on my YouTube. I get some for cars I could never afford, and the only cars I can actually afford are in little plastic boxes. But yeah, it's a weird thing that the ads you get on YouTube. Damien says, I hate those ads. Dealing gets German ads. Ralph gets tons of furniture ads. What else do people get? What else do I get? I did get some for One Nation, which is the new flavor of the month conservative party that Pauline Hanson runs. And I managed to block those. Peter says, I love Dark Victory, Now Voyager, and Mark Women. They're all great. Hagsploitation. Yeah, that's what it's called. I'm not sure if it's the right name for it because it is a bit sexist. And it's, but it may be a reflection of the way that Hollywood studios treated women of a certain age and put them in roles where they were basically considered to be grotesques. And yeah, the sexism of Hollywood, well known, it still happens to this very day. Dodge Morgan says, electric car ads mostly in crisps. I would love to get crisps ads. Deb says, I get pregnancy support ads, which considering I'm post-menopause is hilarious. Yeah. Unless there's a star in the East, that's just not going to happen. But yeah, women get different ads than men do. Yes, the ads are targeted, of course. But it's really weird because Sal and I will discuss something random and totally unrelated to our real lives while we're sitting here in the man cave. And the speakers pick it up, and then suddenly we're getting fed ads for all sorts of weird random shit. Damien says, whatever happened to Baby Jane still stands up. Yeah, I'm looking forward to rewatching that one. I haven't watched it for a long time. Victor Buono's in that one, isn't he? Yeah, I am looking forward to it. The other Betty Davis movie I got recently was in one of the TV Movie of the Week's box sets that Imprint do. And it's Madam Sin, where she basically plays a female Fu Manchu going up against Robert Wagner. That one's a fun movie to watch. It's very kind of Euro spy in a way, very bleak ending. But I really enjoy it because it's just so over the top. And Betty Davis playing, not quite yellowface, but playing a female Fu Manchu who has a sonic weapon that can brainwash people. I'm there for that. I think it's like genius casting. It wouldn't have worked with Joan Crawford, but it definitely works with Betty Davis. D. Lee says, Filipino YouTube ads are fun. People singing about meat products. I don't get any meat product ads. I would go meat product ads. Hey, smart speakers, give me beef jerky ads. Deb says, Madam Sin is high camp fabulous. It is. And I really like it. It's over the top. Good supporting cast. Gordon Jackson, people like that are in there. It's I'm going to rewatch that one probably sometime in the next week or so. But yeah, Madam Sin, if you can find a copy of it, there are a couple of shit copies on YouTube. But I've kind of gone off watching some movies on YouTube unless they come from the original owners of the product, because they tend to be like VHS rips and they look shit. For sales here, how you doing? Went to see Supergirl the other day. I was on the fence about it until you gave it a positive review. Not your typical superhero movie. I enjoyed every minute of it. Glad you did. I'm glad that some people can see through the hype and just let the movie be the movie. I think that is so important. And the right wing nut jobs and incels and fanboys who get pissed off because a movie isn't demographically targeted to them, just give me the dry heaves. Dick says, enjoy the film. Is currently working on the Terry Talks movies Christmas Parcel. Wow. Still summer. I mean, you can take a break if you want to, Dick. Seriously, mate. Ralph says, at least the furniture ads don't insult my intelligence, except the ones where the lady cuts up the couch and wears it. You sure that's an ad and not an OnlyFans? Peter says, Philip K. Dick was right. Household appliances now have us under surveillance. Yeah, I don't mind them having us under surveillance if the worst thing that happens is I get a weird ad for something that I'm never going to buy. And to be honest with you, I don't understand why I'm getting a bunch of ads for cosmetic creams. Maybe it's looking at my face and deciding that I need them. I'm not sure, but it's not a product I buy. I mean, if they wanted to do ads for products I buy, it'd be coffee. What else would it be? Bread, olives, bacon. But apart from that, not a lot. One of the things I've noticed, and I do enjoy this particular genre of YouTube, I like watching British, like English, Irish, Scottish, Welsh travel vloggers. And there's two kinds of travel vloggers within that demographic. There's one lot that travel and have a good time and just do their thing, like Steve Marsh, and to an extent, planes, trains, everything. And there's the other ones who tend to be from the north. I'm not kind of demographically shaming anybody, but shit, they drink a lot. They go into pubs all the time and spend their time sitting in pubs. Now, I'm not really keen on pubs. I go to pubs for a pub meal occasionally, and I'll get a beer to go with the meal. But for me, at least, I don't go to pubs a lot. When's the last time I went to a pub? It would have had to have been last year. I really don't go to pubs. No, I wasn't. There was a birthday party for my father-in-law, Peter, and we went to a pub for that. So that's the only time I go to pubs. But pub culture in the UK seems to be endemic. Dick says, seem to have hit a current sweet spot with the charity shops recently, with the movies and comic book stuff I've been finding. Yeah, check out Dick's YouTube channel. He gets the best comic books and some really fine movies as well. Carol says, nothing worse than clicking on an ad by accident and then getting tons of the same similar ads on Facebook. Absolutely. Dodge Morgan says, enjoy Scots and trains, planes, everything. Yeah. Scott's good value, and so is Steve Marsh. Most of our pubs are closing down, says Carol. Well, I wonder why. Maybe all the Weatherspoons are just sucking up all the clientele. Because I'm not too sure about the idea of chain pubs. Our pubs, I mean, there's one for the local, there's a club pub kind of thing for the local football club down near the station. They do a nice meal. They also have slot machines and poker machines in there. Dick says, thanks for the plug. Anytime, mate. We're all a community. But yeah, if I go to a pub, it's going to be for a meal. It's not going to be just to sit down and drink and kill brain cells. Carol says, the problem with the pubs is government taxes, rates, etc. make it difficult to trade and make a profit. Yeah, there is that. Yeah, your government seems to be pretty screwed up there, but then whose isn't? Dodge Morgan says, our pubs turning into places of worship and not worshipping the pint. Young people don't drink that much anymore, says Emmy. I don't drink much either. I've got a 4-pack from Aldi of Irish Stout, and I don't usually drink alcohol in the winter because for me it's a summer drink. You know, when you're hot and stuff like that, I'll occasionally have a beer or an Aperol spritz or something like that. But I've got a 4-pack of Irish Stout I bought maybe 2 weeks ago, and I've had 2 of them, and it'll probably last me the rest of the month. Deb says, "I tend to go to cafes rather than pubs these days." Yeah, me too. There's a really good cafe up at Manor Lakes that does like the best breakfasts and meals. They'll do things like a really good ribbon sandwich, or what did I have? I had a schnitzel there, like a schnitty with the chips and the salad on the side. Great, good value as well. You know, the prices are right, but it's in as like a strip mall shopping center area, so it doesn't get quite the traffic flow that the places that are in like an urban center get. But it's fantastic for good vibe as well. Carol says, "We're not drinkers, but used to enjoy going to the pub to play pool when I was at uni or a pub quiz. Then the binge drinkers arrive and put us all off." Yeah, absolutely. When I was a kid on Saturdays, I used to go to the cinema. I'd watch a double feature at lunchtime. And the reason I got to go to the cinema and do that was my father was binge drinking at the pub. And then when the movies are over, we'd have to sit around for 4 or 5 hours waiting for him to finish so we could go home. Maybe that's the reason it's put me off pop culture, because I had an early exposure to it. And for me, it was a bad thing. Mo says, "The stream is buffering so bad, I need to watch the upload. Take care all." Is anybody else getting buffering? Because I don't want people to get buffering. How's the stream for other people? Because I can't tell from this end. Carol says, "We went on holiday a few weeks ago, spent each night playing snooker and pool. Lovely." Dick says it's playing fine where he is, so that's good, because that's on the other side of the planet. No buffering from D. Lee. Stream is behaving for Ralph. Okay, sorry about that, Mose. If you're going to watch it later, I appreciate that as well. Deb says, "Went to Rain Check Lounge in North Hobart yesterday for brunch with a movie friend. We're planning to see The Odyssey in gold class in a couple of weeks." Yeah, a little bit of buffering. Can't be nice cold lager in the evening sunshine, says Dodge Morgan. Yeah, keep me updated on the buffering if you guys could, because I want to make sure that things aren't going crazy here. I'm going to close anything else I've got open to see if that helps a bit. Peter says no buffering there, so I'm not sure what the issue is, but please keep me updated. Yeah, so tons of movies. One of the things that's just got announced, which is kind of tearing people down the middle. No buffering there, says for sale. Well, yeah, one of the things that is just been announced as far as Australian releases are concerned. And yes, I did request to get review copies of this. Umbrella, who are the boldest of our local movie releasing companies, is releasing all 3 Human Centipede movies on 4K. And the movie buff in the collector community is going split down the middle and go, "Oh, cool, we're going to get that." And the other one, people are going, "No, I would never watch that movie, those movies." Patrick says no buffering. Yeah, so the Human Centipede movies are coming out on 4K. And fingers crossed I'll get a copy of them to review. Yeah, they're gross out movies to the max. They're incredible. And these movies do leave a bad taste in people's mouths. But I'm kind of pleased that Umbrella are doing that. They've never shied away from transgressive movies. They put out collections of new French extremity horror films and things like that. And in my heart of hearts, I'm looking forward to the Umbrella release of the Human Centipede movies, which is kind of cool. And I will review them without going into the gory details, but I will review them on the channel. But yeah, that one's splitting the potential audience right down the middle. A lot of people, including reviewers, are saying, no, I'm not going to touch that one. But I am. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to review them the same way I did with the Terrifier movies, the same way I did with the new French Extremity films. They're not for every. I did it with the Toxic Avenger films as well. But for a lot of people, not their kind of thing. And knowing Umbrella, when they do a prestige release like this, there's going to be a lot of ancillary material, including booklets and essays and things like that. And to be honest, for me, the stuff that's going to be really fun is going to be reading the essays about the movies as much as watching the movies. That stuff is going to really, really hit my sweet spot as far as movie appreciation is concerned. And I think there's one or two people I know who are writing essays about the Human Centipede movies for that particular release. I'm fairly sure Sally isn't going to watch them, but she often doesn't. Deb says, yeah, I'm not going to bother with the Human Centipede set, though I'm interested in the essays. Yeah, I understand that. And for me, I'll give anything a go. I even watched Solo. I've got a copy of Solo as well. Solo's a weird movie in the Australian context because Solo or 120 Days in Sodom, I think Pasolini did, I'm not sure. But it got banned here in Australia for a long time. And the only way you could get copies of Solo was you went down to a place called Polyester Books in Brunswick Street in Fitzroy in Melbourne, just north of Melbourne City. And they had VHS pirated copies of Solo that you could buy for like $30. And every 2 months, the cops would come out and raid them and take away all of the good movies that were illegal in Australia. But then about 15 years ago, it just turned up in JB Hi-Fi on Blu-ray. And apparently the government stopped banning it and didn't tell anyone. Dealey says, yep, was Pasolini. Dodge Morgan says, Human Centipede, you sick puppy. Yes, I am. By the way, the Universal box set should arrive for Umbrella today, says Steph. Good. We won't hear from you for about a month. That's not the good part, but good that you're getting it. Forsyth says, speaking of Betty Davis, the 1934 pre-code movie Flog Over Frisco is one of her best. I watched it on a big screen in 73, but haven't been able to find a copy of it anywhere since. Yeah, maybe it's a lost film. Here's Sally Jane. Hey, chicken. You're almost on screen.
Your camera's backwards. Hi, everybody. I'm up early resin in the evening.
Yeah, she's doing resin stuff for friends. But yeah, she's awake and she's got gloves on, which is not what you think. Dick says, hi, Sally.
Hello, goodbye. Go back tomorrow.
Yeah, she's going back to do her thing. But yeah, she's up in the morning. She's not monitoring this live stream. Dodge Morgan says, hi. Yeah, she's actually working today on some resin. Hey, Deb says hi. But yeah, so the Umbrella box sets, I do like what Umbrella does. Umbrella's kind of the grindhouse releasing company these days. They do a lot of good stuff. And they're also doing a new release of the Drive-In Delirium set, which is a whole bunch of movie trailers from like the past 70 years. And they've found new trailers they didn't have in the previous Drive-In Delirium releases. And so I'm looking forward to getting one of those if they choose to send it to me. Because I love going through compilations of trailers and then marking down the movies and seeing if I can find a copy of them. But they're releasing a new one. And I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully they will send it to me. Peter says, the Marquis de Sades novel, 120 Days in Sodom, are endless gold mine of depravity. That doesn't sound like anything to dissuade me. But, yeah, lots of stuff coming out. And Imprint are releasing things as well. They've got things like they're putting out Fireball XL5 on Blu-ray. They're also doing Joe 90, so they've got a couple of Jerry Anderson things that are coming out in prestige editions with books as well. So you've got essays and things. A lot of that stuff comes out. The weird thing is, usually on Fridays, I'm editing, and I'm also watching the Disconnected live stream, Ryan Verrill's live stream. And so I'm very busy, and then suddenly Imprint will drop a whole bunch of stuff, and I've put in my order form to get them. But Fridays are getting very busy for me. And in fact, a couple of weeks ago, I was the guest host on the Disconnected live stream with Ryan. And we had a great time just talking about movies and shooting this shit. And, there's a Sailor Moon box set coming out. I was enthusiastic about that. We just had a great time for like about 3 hours, three and a half hours, just shooting this shit about movies. It was really fun to do. For Sale says, I have a grey market copy of Sully, a very intense movie. I think Pasolini was assassinated because someone hated him for making it. That's going to be the dumbest reason to assassinate anybody. I didn't like your movie. Yeah, that's if that was the case, Michael Bay would have been gone long ago. But Deb says, I'm going to try and be sensible about my movie watching, but I'm really busy at the moment. The sun will be shining most of the day, and I need to start getting the garden ready for spring. Yeah, just remember, look after your back, and if you need it, Deb, bit of deep heat wouldn't hurt. Peter says, I mean that in a good way. I've got all of Desade's stuff in a locked trunk. Why does it need to be locked? I've got a collection of erotica novels, which are just behind this background here. And I'm going to weed through them because, I admit unashamedly that the man cave is a hovel. It's piled with stuff. But I've got a plan to get it in ship shape. It's going to take a lot of work. I'm going to have to ditch a lot of stuff. I'm going to have to get rid of things that I haven't looked at in 10 years. But you've got that odd thing of being reluctant to get rid of them. But I've got plans for where they can go. I've got plans for redesigning the man cave. And I've got plans for even reorganizing the computer desks. That's what I've been working on. See, computer desk plan. I've got 5 different plans for redesigning the man cave. Look, plans and everything. But I just haven't got around with it. Deb's a Voltaren girl. She doesn't use deep heat. I like deep heat. I like the smell of deep heat. But I got a question for you. This one's interesting. I did some research about movie stars. Here's a surprise. I did research about movie stars. I'll read the chat first. Some new Jerry Anderson series coming out with the help of his son Jamie Anderson. Hit Squad is one based on Jerry's ideas. Mixture of stop motion and CG. That's weird, Dodge. I haven't heard anything about it. I don't know whether Imprint are going to get it. But I've got a pop quiz for you. Are you ready? Brace yourselves. What do these movie people have in common? Walt Disney, George Harrison, Humphrey Bogart, Nat King Cole, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Lana Turner, Sigmund Freud, he's the cuckoo in the nest, George Peppard, and Doug McClure. What do they all have in common? I'll give you a moment to think. Let me know if you want me to read that list out again. Just waiting for the chat, waiting for the internet to put my dulcet tones across the planet. But the Jerry Anderson collections are nice. I've got a couple of the ones they got. For Sale says all alcoholics. For Sale says, how about a hint? They're all dead. Deb says, read again. Walt Disney, George Harrison, Humphrey Bogart, Nat King Cole, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Lana Turner, Sigmund Freud, George Peppard, and Doug McClure. They're not all alcoholics, Dodge says. Yep. So I'll just let you guys think about that. No Googling, because that's cheating. There's no prize for winning. But it's just something that I noticed and something that I've been thinking about for a while. So let me know what you come up with. And if you want the answer, just say I want the answer. It's one big piece of research I did for this video. Got to get my eyebrows trimmed as well. They're starting to turn into like Milo O'Shea eyebrows. Carol says they've all had collection box sets for imprint. No, that's not it. Because Sigmund Freud never got a box set. Dick Power said they all married younger people. Who didn't? I married younger people both times. Yes, I've been married twice. I'm sinful. Ralph says cancer, a little more than that. Lots of people got cancer. Dodge Morgan says never won a major award. Bogart did. Lana Turner didn't. Walt Disney definitely did. So just let me know if you want the answer. Just waiting for this. I've got other stuff to talk about as well. Ralph says throat cancer, not quite. Deb says all lung cancer. Yep, you're right, Deb. They all got lung cancer from smoking. Though Sigmund Freud's was partly lung cancer, but also tongue cancer, which is kind of icky. But yeah, they all got it from smoking. They all smoked and they all got Jimmy Dancer from smoking. And it's really weird when you're watching things like Nat King Cole or Bogart or Doug McClure or George Peppard smoking. And you look at it and go, is that the one that got them? Yeah. And the reason I noticed that is I was kind of doing biographical research randomly about actors. And they're all dying early. They're all, so much of Hollywood died before it got to my age. And yes, of course, medical technologies have advanced since then. But most of it is like smoking related deaths. Dealey says same with Jesse Owens. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of them. That was just a list of 10 I found. But yeah, all smoking and all smoking related, which is kind of sucky. One of the other reasons why I came up with that list is there's a resurgence in smoking among young people, at least here in Australia. And it's all because they think it looks cool. And there's some celebrities who are in the pocket of some tobacco companies. Vaping is the same. Vaping gives you something called popcorn lung, where your alveoli just turn into little clumps. Dodge Morgan says, everybody draw on a stogie in old movies. Yeah, absolutely. Forsyth says, I remember being able to smoke on airplanes that actually had a smoking section. So did cinemas. I think the upstairs at my local, the Regal, was the smoking section. David says, I see too many people smoking as I go to work. Yeah, I don't see much of them because, I don't tend to go in the city much. But when I do, and I'm walking down the street and there are people standing in alleyways puffing on cigarettes or vaping. Less vaping now because vaping's become kind of semi-illegal. I just go, you idiots. And I don't like the smell of it as well. Cigarettes don't smell as good as they used to. Cigarettes used to have a certain aroma about them, but now it's just like toxic waste. I mean, my grandfather got emphysema from smoking, my father's father. But he went in his 70s, but still gasping for breath ain't the way to go. Deb says, I remember going to Cheech and Chong movies when you could smoke in the cinema. Yeah, you could. Never liked it. Damien says, I remember Labor and Western Australia got kicked out of office because they wanted to ban smoking on buses in the early 1970s. Yeah, public transport. There were smoking and non-smoking train carriages in New South Wales where I grew up. And people tended a little bit to ignore that. But yeah, Deb says, best thing I ever did was give up smoking. Never took it up. Did the usual thing, tried some. And went, fuck, my mouth tastes bad. And fuck, I'm sick of coughing. So I never really took it up. Never got to the stage of addiction with smoking. But I'm glad you did. There's just, and we used to see that thing outside hospitals where you'd have people dragging an oxygen tent with them and the prongs up their nose. And then they turn off the oxygen and puff cigarettes. Horrible addiction. That's why my only addiction at the moment is coffee. But I've still restricted myself to 3 espressos a day. And I'm really good at sticking to that. Though if I've got a heavy editing evening, I will occasionally, and this is like every month or so, I might have 4 in a day. But yeah, smoking, I don't like the idea of it having a resurgence. I don't like the idea of vaping because long term, it's misery for the people who've got it and people who've got that addiction and people who do those things. And some of the things about vaping strike home quite close to us. But yeah, it's amazing. One of the reasons I'm pissed off with the Hollywood smoking thing. This is my alternate universe theory. Humphrey Bogart was 57 when he died of lung cancer. There's a potential that had he not smoked, let's look at an alternate universe scenario. Had Humphrey Bogart not smoked, he would have been the perfect person to play Noah Cross in Chinatown. Instead of getting John Huston, who worked with Bogart a lot, you could have had Humphrey Bogart playing that role and nailing it incredibly well. He would have been perfect as Noah Cross in Chinatown. But it wasn't to be. Peter says, both my parents smoked, so me not smoking was my way of rebelling. Still never touched it at 61, yeah. Damien says, I've stolen daddy's smokes as a child. Mum caught me, made me smoke for one after the other. I got sick and never took smoking up. Dodge Morgan says, don't drink much coffee. When I do, I get hyper. I mean, I've got to the stage with espressos that I like the ritual of making an espresso in the espresso machine. First thing in the morning. I've had 2 this morning, and I'm going to have 1 more after I live stream. But that'll be it for the day for me. I get good coffee as well. The coffee roasters I've got, I get them imported from South Australia with free postage. I get the beans that are roasted there. They send them to me. I grind them and make the coffee myself. I like that ritual. I like the aroma of it. I like the taste of it. Because I've drunk coffee for so long, I don't tend to get a jittery buzz about it with 3 espressos spaced out over a day. I don't get that. I did in the past. I was at my sister and brother-in-law's place a number of years ago. And Gavin, my brother-in-law, is in hospo. He's like a proper cook and a sommelier. Kept offering coffees. I just kept saying yes because I was, grooving with the family. Ended up having 8 coffees in a day and couldn't get to sleep that night. And the next morning we were supposed to drive back to Melbourne, which is 900 kilometres. I got so up and I drove all night myself, 900 kilometres, because I was so wired on coffee. So I don't do that anymore. Deb says, I don't drink a lot of coffee or alcohol anymore, but when I do, it's the good stuff. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. With alcohol, in my mature adult life, I've only ever drunk for taste. I don't like things like espresso martinis because I don't think they add anything to either coffee or alcohol. But if I get a beer, I'm going to buy a quality beer with a rich taste. That's why I like stouts and porters and things like that. I like complex flavors, and I'll drink one for taste. I don't remember a time when I've drunk more than 2 alcoholic drinks in any one day, which is why I'm so sharp enough to do a live stream at my advanced age. I do know people who are around my age and who have drunk consistently and moderately heavily for their entire lives. And sadly, they're a bit diminished at this stage. They're not quite as on the ball, as sharp. They lose words, and that always concerns me. Kayan, hi, I'm off the coffee a week now. My hiatus is acting up. Want to reduce the stomach acid. Yeah, I can respect that. Yeah, the stomach acid thing is always a worry with that. But because I'm drinking espresso, it tends to be a very compact shot. I'm not drinking like mugs of coffee. And I think that makes a difference. But I can totally understand for medical reasons doing it. That's why I don't eat much potato chips now. I had to reduce my salt, and potato chips have egregious amounts of salt in them. And much as I love a good chip, like crisps, I don't really have much of them now because of that. And I don't like the feel of having my blood pressure shoot up and my heart rate shoot up, which doesn't happen with coffee, but tends to happen if I have too much salt. Let's see, what's the time? We're 51 minutes in. This is going fast. That's good. And when I talk a lot, my beanie tends to rotate, and I don't know why. But yeah, I can respect doing things for health issues. I'm a bit more worried about people who don't do the things they should do for health issues, which is why I went for that walk yesterday. And to be honest with you, the muscles are starting to not be sore, and that's good. Had a rough night because sore muscles always give you a rough night's sleep. But yeah. So what have I been watching? I've actually got a list. How about that? I got organised. Some of these you can see on YouTube, and one of the problems I have with watching movies on YouTube is ads, and we do get them. But sometimes they're the only way you can find certain movies in a reasonable way, rather than forking out $40 for a Blu-ray or a 4K. And some things aren't actually on the Blu-ray or 4K. And I watched a kind of spy thriller from 1966, starring James Garner and Melina McCurry, called A Man Could Get Killed, where James Garner plays an American businessman who goes to Lisbon in Portugal, and they assume he's a secret agent. He gets involved with the British embassy and gets like 87 different spies and criminals chasing him. It's also got Anthony Franciosa in it. It's got Sandra Dee. It's got a whole bunch of English actors like Robert Coote and Roland Cutler. A bunch of English actors as well that they imported to put into this movie. Noel McGuinness is in it as well, playing a sea captain. And they're searching after some diamonds. All that kind of stuff. And there's a great aspect to this movie. It's a kind of mediocre action thriller. Locations in Portugal are fantastic, and they're well chosen, and they do speak some Portuguese in there. Everybody's going obrigado and things like that. But it's got a banger of a soundtrack by Bert Camford. And Melina McCurry is sexy as fuck in this movie. She's playing off James Garner incredibly. And she's like 45 at the time. But bloody hell, she looked hot. Incredibly vivid woman in movies. And I've looked up the history of her. She actually helped the resistance during World War II when she was like in her early 20s. She had a very wealthy boyfriend. and was funneling money from him into the resistance without telling him. And a couple of times when she nearly got shot by the Gestapo. So her playing a woman of mystery in a spy thriller in the 60s, you can understand why she ran rings around the fucking Nazis. Incredibly attractive, vivid woman in this movie, and she plays off Garner really well. And is just an incredible presence in the movie and lifted it like this high. Really enjoyed it. Dodge Morgan says, on a health kick, started taking more bran to open the sluices. Good. I usually have muesli and grain stuff for breakfast. I didn't this morning. This morning I went weird with my breakfast. And I had 2 packets of ramen with all of the Vietnamese spices in them. So I just cracked 2 packets of ramen, heated them up, had that for breakfast because I wanted something different. And I couldn't be fucked going out in 1 degree temperatures. Kayan says, this week I watched Deep End, 1970, with John Mulder Brown and Jane Asher, I think. And Tourist Trap from 1979, both on YouTube. Problem with watching things on YouTube that are modern, or at least post-1960s, you still get them censored a bit, which I don't tend to like. But I did like watching a man who get killed. Really fun little caper film from 1966. David says, always enjoyed James Garner in any role. I picked up Marlowe with that Bruce Lee appearance. Yeah, I like the fact that Marlowe defeats Bruce Lee by basically accusing him of being a little bit gay. And he got so pissed off that he jumped and did a flying kick over a balcony. Sorry, I've got to sign this thing. But yeah, Garner is great in this, and he is having fun with Melina Mercouri. But that one I really enjoyed, mostly because of her. Damien is having toast for breakfast. Cool. It's always a good choice when you don't want to really make a choice. Dick says, really watched some 1970s and 80s movies. Swamp Thing, Scanners, Coffee, Invasion of Body Snatchers, and Rollerball. I think people watch Swamp Thing mostly for Adrian Barbeau, but I can understand that. What else did I watch? I watched a movie called Over Your Dead Body, which is a remake of a Swedish film. Let me just get the deets up. It's a 2026 movie. It just came up on streaming. I think it's on Amazon. And Over Your Dead Body is a remake of a movie called The Trip, which is a Norwegian film. But I didn't know it was a remake till afterwards. And it stars Samara Weaving and Jason Segel and Timothy Olyphant. And it's also got some other good supporting actors in there. Juliette Lewis is in there as well. And it's about a couple played by Samara Weaving and Jason Segel. Marriage isn't going well. They go to a country cabin on the lake to try to zhuzh up their marriage, ostensibly. And the problem is, both of them are trying to kill the other one off. And they find out. And then some escaped prisoners arrive and complicate things. And it's very, very funny. Gory as hell, but in a comical way. Samara Weaving and Jason Segel play off each other well. Timothy Olyphant's there with Juliette Lewis. They're having a great time too. It worked. I haven't seen the original, but just leaving the movie as a standalone, even though it's a remake, really great. There's a lot of shotgunning the heads off people and gore and guts in a comic way. And Samara Weaving may be my favorite scream queen at the moment. She's doing really good work playing people in egregious horror situations that just don't take anybody's shit anymore. For Sale says, I have a CD collection of the best of Bert Camford. Some of the music was used as a theme from Sandy Becker Show, my favorite kids' TV show from the early 60s. Yeah, Bert Camford does a great job in this movie too. And Peter says, yep, Milena Mercouri is considered a national hero and a legend in Greece. She was a minister for culture in Greece for a long time as well. And just fantastic. It's there's certain actresses that really have like a hammer impact on screen. And when they're on screen, you ain't looking at anybody else. Ava Gardner had that as a young woman. Marilyn Monroe had that, even though she's not particularly to my taste. And Milena Mercouri, bam, absolutely. Like Anna Karina. There's a few actresses that have an enormous presence on screen. Anne Margaret had the same thing. But yeah, in this one, with her going up against James Garner, she's having a lot of fun too. Same way she did in Top Carpi, though in Top Carpi, she's a little less vivid than she is in A Man Could Get Killed. So yeah, I watched Over Your Dead Body. I recommend it. It's fun. It goes weird places. It's got a couple of car crashes in it, which is always fun. And a lot of people getting mutilated and then just like punching out the person who tries to mutilate them. Very funny movie. And it actually saves a marriage. So there is that. Then what else did I watch? I watched Kronos, 1957 science fiction movie Kronos. Film Masters put it out on YouTube because they're doing a reconstruction of it. They're fixing it up and tidying it up. So they put Kronos out, the real Kronos, about a giant geometric-looking monster from outer space. It comes to Earth to suck all the atomic energy out of everything. I like it. I think it's a good, weird science fiction movie from 1957. It's got George O'Hanlon in it, who was the voice of George Jetson in there. Kronos I recommend. It's I put a link up on the Discord server so that people can watch Kronos. Dodge Morgan says, not looking forward to Zack Snyder's remake of Escape from New York. Thought it might be fun to see Trump dumped behind the city walls. Not sure what's going to happen with that. Zack Snyder, I think, is somebody who has a reputation that's inflated beyond his capabilities. He doesn't seem to be a disciplined filmmaker to me. And being a filmmaker, being a director in particular, and a creative guy, you need that discipline. And I think he has unique visions to things, but I'm not sure whether he has a supporting layer of people who are willing to go, no, you probably shouldn't do that. So I'll watch it, but I've got no hopes at all for an Escape from New York remake. And also, tonally, I don't think it'll work because New York is full of billionaires and millionaires and incredibly high-priced real estate now. Whereas when Escape from New York, the original, was made, New York was bankrupt on the shitter. 42nd Street was full of sleazy strip clubs and sex shops and porno movie houses. It had the vibe in the late 70s and early 80s, which lent itself to having the city walled off and turned into a slum for criminals. But New York in the 2020s is full of cashed up people. Getting a shoebox in New York in 2020s will cost you $1,500 a month. Don't think it'd be totally right to do that. You do it with another city. There are other cities that are more on their knees already. But New York, no, it just won't work unless you chuck it in an alternate universe where New York didn't get cashed up with real estate agents and crypto billionaires. But that's just my opinion. What else did I watch? I watched another Samara Weaving movie called Eeny Meeny from a few years ago, where she plays a woman who's a really good wheel person for criminal gangs. She is the person you want for your escape vehicle. And she has a really hopeless ex who is just stupid and dumb and dangerously dumb in the criminal organizations she used to work in as a teenager and in her early 20s. And she's trying to get her shit together. She's getting an education. She's working a normal 9 to 5. And she gets drawn back in by not only her ex, but by the local crime boss, played by Andy Garcia, who likes her, but he needs her to help steal $3 million and a muscle car from a casino. And she also finds out that she hooked up with her ex, like after they broke up, and she's pregnant. And so she's got that going on. She's drawn back into the criminal thing to get this $3 million in the car. And she's got this ex-boyfriend who does dumb things that threaten her life and her freedom in a lot of ways. And I kind of like it. I don't think tonally it's perfect, but it's a nice, smaller action movie. David says, I have drive in a few movies. Universal Horror set from Umbrella. Cool. Yeah, that Universal Horror set. I'll put it with the other the main Universal Horror movies together on the shelf. I've got the big ones, Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, Invisible Man on 4K in a box set. And I'll put that that Umbrella Universal box set with it. So I've got like as complete a Universal Horror box set as I can possibly get at the moment, leaving aside the Abbott and Costello movies. But yeah, so Eeny Meeny is a fun little film and worth checking out. Four Stars says, Andy Garcia made a movie called A Million Ways to Die. Rosanna Arquette was in it. Yeah, she was fun. I haven't seen A Million Ways to Die in a long time. Jeff Bridges is in that as well, as I recall. But I also saw Anaconda, the remake, with Jack Black and Paul Rudd and Tandaway Newton. It's okay. It's not great. I don't think the comedy lands as well as the movie intended, but it was okay. Adam says, hi, footy is on. Brazilian has been bounced out. I'm not sure what any of that means. I'm not a sports ball kind of guy. Yeah, there is that around too. Apparently there's a big football thing on, like soccer, and people around the world are losing their shit about it, but not me. Dodge says, Robert Eggers' werewolf trailer looks interesting. It does. And it's all spoken in Middle English. Don't know whether there's going to be subtitles or not, or whether you need subtitles for Middle English. But it's definitely got that Robert Eggers vibe about it. Forsyth says, movies are better than sport. Yeah, that's the title of this live stream. Yeah, it's just everybody's losing their shit. And I think it's quite a bold move for people to go to the United States at the moment to watch sports ball. It's a bold move to go to the United States at the moment for a lot of people. And there are a lot of people who are avoiding that. My one of the other YouTube ads I'm getting a lot is like tourist videos for various cities around the United States because the arse has fallen out of the tourist industry. I don't know why, but it has. And a lot of people are not going to the United States. Adam says, best football film ever. This Sporting Life is probably the one. I've seen that one. Where Richard Harris gets his teeth knocked out. But I'm not fond of sports, particularly contact sports, because chronic traumatic encephalography is a thing. And it's starting to hit with AFL football here in Australia, where ex-players are getting dementia in their 40s because they had too many knocks on the head when they were playing sports ball. I don't like entertainment being conditional on young men and women now getting brain injuries. I don't like that one tiny bit. I think it's, even though there are a lot of spin doctors speaking contrary to this, I don't like the idea of entertainment giving young people brain injuries so that in their 40s they're not able to function adequately as human beings. I think that's monstrous. I think that's wrong. I think the people who are making the most money out of it are the wealthy already. And we need to seriously consider whether contact sports are something that a reasonable civilization wants to encourage. The Man Cave Man says, "Hi Terry, as usual, late to the party. It's 41 degrees centigrade in southern Arizona. I can handle 41 degrees. I can handle the heat. I can't handle the cold. Escape to Victory is a good movie," says Dodge. That's rugby. At the moment, it's still 1 degree here, and the sun's just come up. I can see out my window. But I don't handle the cold. I can handle any amount of heat. I can drink more liquids, and as long as I've got airflow around me, like a fan or something, I can handle pretty much anything. But again, it depends on your architecture. Our houses aren't particularly designed for 1 degree centigrade, but they are designed for higher temperatures. Damien says, organizations don't really care about their players. Yeah, they'll do lip service to it, but as long as the cash is flowing, and they're getting their bonuses based on that. I think there is that as well. They're like tobacco companies. Tobacco companies still exist and still make a lot of money. And that's a weird thing too in Australia. We've had this thing where progressively taxes on tobacco have got higher and higher as a gradual process to dissuade people from smoking, which has led to unintended consequences. A really strong illegal cigarette and tobacco trade. People are smuggling in Chinese cigarettes, and a packet of cigarettes here normally will cost you $45, $50. But if you go and buy the illegal ones, brands like Manchester, they're $10 and $12 at tobacconists who sell illegal tobacco. And so people are going to that. And governments are struggling to stop the illegal contraband coming in and also stopping people from selling it. But the tobacco companies ultimately are producing those cigarettes that are coming in illegally. And they're making some money off them, whether it's through the legal means or whether it's through the illegal means. I mean, I was about a couple of years ago, I was waiting for Sarah. She was getting a tattoo done in a place called Bacchus Marsh, not too far from where I am. I was sitting on a park bench. It's a warm day, chomping on a samosa. And there's a lot of people going in and out of the tobacconist with shopping bags. They're getting stuff and coming in and out. And they're not cashed up people, so they're not paying $50 for a packet of cigarettes. And I immediately knew that was a place that was selling illegal tobacco. And I knew it was pension day. And people who are addicted to nicotine were going in, getting their packets of cheap illegal cigarettes and whipping in and out. And the weird thing is that this tobacconist was directly opposite the local courthouse. Somebody's getting kickbacks from that. Time to grab another bottle of water. Deb says, I've been an Aussie Rules fan all my life, and though I love the gladiatorial aspects of AFL, I'm using the rise of acquired brain injuries. There are. For Sale says, Rally cigarettes had coupons inside the packet. If you saved enough of them, you could trade them in for an iron lung. I'm not sure that's true, but yeah, I understand what you're saying. Drop something again. Yeah, it's egregiously bad tobacco. Paul Hogan, before he made that silly movie, used to flog tobacco. There was a cigarette brand called Winfield, and he did this incredibly lucrative advertising campaign for Winfield cigarettes. And now you can actually, if you go on Timo, you can buy posters of Paul Hogan cigarette ads from Temu. Dodge says, same illegal trade in cigarettes in the UK. Raided by police, his station was across the road and open for business again soon afterwards. Yeah, they do. Their business model works raids from the police into their business model, which is how it works. And you see that around the streets too. I did one of my walks when I was walking from Werribee to Melbourne for the other channel. I was walking through South Kensington, and around the streets there were packets of Manchester cigarettes, like the empty packets. And that brand is not sold legally in Australia. So I knew that somewhere around there was an illegal tobacco shop. And there were also tobacco wars between the criminal gangs. And tobacco shops are getting hit by arsonists all the time as they try to stop their opposition from getting a foothold in the industry. It's a whole thing here. And you go down any strip mall that's got tobacconists in it, and the tobacco shops are fortified like Fort Knox, because there's always a possibility somebody's going to come and drop a Molotov cocktail on the front door at 3 a.m. But that's how it goes. I'm sure there's a movie that could be made about the illegal tobacco trade that might be a bit of a banger if the right person wrote and directed it. Maybe we'll see it in the future. Maybe it's a TV level idea, but I'm sure there's going to be some kind of criminal movie about the illegal tobacco trade at some stage in the future, because that is where the money is made at the moment. Drugs are kind of passe. People have been doing drug-related movies since the 1950s. Illegal tobacco may be the new heroin as far as cinema is concerned. But we'll see. What else did I watch? I watched Enola Holmes 3 with Millie Bobby Brown playing the sister of Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes is played by Henry Cavill. And in the third movie, she's getting married to this dweeby guy in Malta. Beautiful Maltese scenery. And her brother gets kidnapped by Moriarty. All sorts of stuff. Not convinced that Millie Bobby Brown is a presence as an actress. Yes, she was a child actress in Stranger Things and all that, but as an adult, with that received pronunciation accent she has, not sure she's got long-term career arc to do more than just like Netflix movies like this. It's okay. It's got colorblind casting, which I don't mind. It's got beautiful locations in Malta, but it's a bit meh. Ian says, maybe an Underbelly series. Yeah, I never watched the Underbelly TV stuff when they came out, because you can just read it in the newspapers. Dodge says, we had a burger van wars in our town in the 1990s. Rivals set fire to each other's vans. One parked in the house near our family got out. Okay, luckily. Wow. We got so many food trucks here, and all of them work together. There's a place called Eat Street, which is just like a kilometre from here, which has literally 15 or 16 Indian food trucks every night. And they all work together. And you can get all different kinds of Indian food. And there is a wide variety of Indian food. You can get gulab jamun, you can get goat curry, you can get vegetarian stuff. You can even get some noodles in there as well. And there's a really good place called Habibi Yalla Yalla in Werribee, which does the best halal snack packs in the world. None of them tend to be antagonistic towards one another. They all have their own thing and they do their own thing. And we've got this incredibly diverse cuisine choices in my hood for getting any kind of food you want from a food van at night time. And I really, really love that. Deb says, illegal tobacco is rife here in Tasmania. Heaps of shop fronts. Yeah, there will. And I'm sure there are a certain number of police getting a kickback because every state in Australia has the best police money can buy. Yeah, I'm sure at least as a background piece in crime films, tobacco is going to get a look in at some stage. What else I watched? Gorgo. I watched Gorgo, the kind of Celtic kaiju movie from the 1950s with Bill Travers and William Sylvester in it. They find a giant lizardy thing off the west coast of Ireland and take it to London and turn it into a zoo display. And then its mum turns up and wrecks half of London. It's fun. It was on YouTube. I've actually got a Blu-ray of it, but it was on YouTube and I couldn't be fucked going up the back of the house to get the Blu-ray. It's fun. Does some really good destruction of London. And some of the special effects are a bit ropey. There is a lot of blue screen in it. But it's nice seeing a kaiju movie from a place that you don't normally think of when you think of kaiju movies. It's not New York City or Los Angeles or San Francisco or Tokyo or Osaka. Gorgo works. I like it. It's silly. Forsyth says, Gorgo scared me and I watched it as an adult. Yeah, it is fun. Johnny Tramp says, I well remember the Paul Hogan commercial. Anyhow, have a Winfield. Yeah. Tobacco. Yeah, tobacco. Occasionally I see people smoking in modern movies and they use some kind of herbal cigarette that doesn't give you Jimmy Dancer as much. But it's never the good guy who smokes now. It's always some kind of villain. And, yeah, if they play the villain right, you go, I don't care if he gets lung cancer. He's a villain. He's probably going to get shot in the head before the end of the movie anyway. Dodge says, I remember a story about Gorgo when it was being shown. Critics walked out saying it was too noisy. Yeah, they ought to be in a modern cinema. Peter says, isn't that a Sir Joe Bjelke-Peterson quote? Queensland is the best police force money can buy. It could be because, they did. And there was a Royal Commission proving it. But, I grew up in New South Wales. We knew the cops were corrupt and had been since 1788. And my brother actually, because my brother was a minor crim at one stage of his life, he used to get called in and then he'd say, no, I didn't do it. And the police at Liverpool Police Station in Sydney used to hit him on the head with phone books because it doesn't show. You don't get bruising. You don't get that. But they would bash suspects with phone books. And the phone books were like that thick at that stage for Sydney. City of about 3 million people at the time. And whacking somebody with a phone book was the way they got confessions in New South Wales Police in the 1970s. These days you can't do it because you'd have to hit them with an iPad. And that leaves marks. But yeah, police corruption here in Australia has always been a thing. And I actually used to know somebody who was a police minister here in Victoria, a guy called Race Matthews. Nice lefty guy. Ended up being police minister for a while. He ended up being the Minister for Culture or Minister for the Arts in the state government here in Victoria for a while. And I remember two things he said. First thing he said was, the one thing he fought when he was police minister was he fought against politicizing the police force, something which is now taken for granted. But when he was police minister in the 70s, I think it was, he fought tooth and nail to stop the police force from being politicized when he was in government. And the other thing I know about him is he's the only minister for the arts who inspired a group of artists to steal a Picasso and hold it for ransom. They stole it from the National Gallery of Victoria and held it for ransom because they didn't like his policies as a minister for the arts. But yeah, there's just so much good crime stuff that just doesn't get looked into because it's not as kinetic as pew pew, zap zap kind of crime stuff. What else did I watch? I watched The Black Knight with Alan Ladd. It was in the latest Tales of Adventure box at number 11. And Alan Ladd playing a blacksmith who works around the court of King Arthur. And there's a Saracen who is trying to, with the help of the King of Cornwall. And the Saracen's played by Peter Cushing in blackface. And the King of Cornwall is played by Patrick Troughton, both of whom played Doctor Who. And in the middle of this is Alan Ladd with his American accent playing a blacksmith who becomes the Black Knight. He gets trained up in being a knight by Andre Morel. And the weird thing is Alan Ladd's like 5'4", and every other actor's got to stand in the trench when they're on screen with him. And he had a stunt double he brought from America with him. And he got the stunt double to do most of the stuff in the movie. Whenever the character's got his back turned to the screen, it's a stunt double. Whenever he's on a horse or doing swashbuckling shit, it's a stunt double. And on this movie's 30 or 40 day shoot, Alan Ladd was only there for like 11 days. It's hilarious to see that. And to see the accent change from Andre Morel doing RP accent. And he's doing quite well in this. And Harry Andrews is in there as well. And Alan Ladd stuck in the middle of this Arthurian swashbuckling movie. It's just crazy. Doug says, I picked up an excellent hardback book of Alfred Hitchcock, all the films, so that I've been revisiting his movies. I love Saboteur with Bob Cummings and Dial M for Murder. Saboteur's underrated. I love Saboteur. David says, Black Knight is fun. Peter Cushing and Patrick Troughton steal the movie, along with Harry Andrews and Andre Morel. Yeah. Deb says, I lived in Melbourne in the 80s. And there was a tram outside Spring Street Police Station. I was on a tram outside Spring Street Police Station when the bomb went off. It was a contributing factor to PTSD. Yeah, that police station got bombed in the 80s. Shit, didn't know that, Deb. That was a big thing, and the people who did it got caught. I think they were the people who did it anyway. And there was a lot of stuff about that where the cops were out for revenge. Crazy. It's like I know some people lived on Hoddle Street when the Hoddle Street massacre happened as well. Lots of crime. I used to live in St Kilda, and there was a lot of crime there when I lived in St Kilda as well. But yeah, it's just where you are and when. It was really weird because there was a bombing at the Hilton Hotel in Sydney in the 1970s, where some people put a bomb in a garbage truck and it blew up, and a couple of people unfortunately lost their lives. I'm walking past there 2 months later, and this is when soft drinks were in steel cans. And so I finished my soft drink and threw my can into a garbage bin. And somebody had dumped a whole bunch of fluorescent light tubes into the garbage can. And I throw my can in there, and suddenly it goes bang as all those fluorescent tubes blew up. It was just one of the casual things. I just didn't notice what I was doing. And everyone on the street ducked. They thought there was another bomb going off. But what it was these stupid fluorescent tubes in the garbage can. But Deb says it was terrifying. I can expect it would be. And it'd come back at you as well. Yeah, Deb was in St Kilda in the 80s as well. Yeah. I had a good time in St Kilda in the 80s, particularly when the St Kilda Festival was on. Yeah, I lived there and had a good time there. It was really great just going down. You go down the road and get all sorts of good food and good pastries from really good bakeries in St Kilda. I really should go back down there. I drove down there not too long ago in the middle of the night, but I didn't really hang around there. So I might go back to St Kilda to do a vlog there. It's got very touristified and very upmarket from where it was. It was very kind of punk and cult movie. There were a couple of good video shops in the 80s in St Kilda where you could pick up all the good stuff. But yeah, St Kilda at a certain stage. And that's one of the things that pisses me off. And yes, it may be a function of growing older. But places that were very bohemian and alternative in the past, places like Glebe in Sydney where I lived, and St Kilda in Melbourne where I lived, and even West Brunswick where I lived in Melbourne, were full of students and artists and bohemian people and alternative people. But as real estate prices increased, there's less and less of that. And there's less of that kind of weird people clumping together and doing wonderful things than there was in those days. Doug says, even as a kid, Americans, British Knights jarred me. Tony Curtis's Bronx accent in The Black Shield of Falworth is very funny. Yep, and The Prince Who Was a Thief and things like that. It's really weird seeing American accents in kind of swashbuckling movies. All credit to Errol Flynn, at least he had a Tasmanian accent. Yeah, so Errol Flynn is from where Deb is, or where Deb lives now, down in Nipaluna. And I did a ghost tour in Hobart, Nipaluna. And the only thing of interest in the ghost tour was the house that used to be the hospital where Errol Flynn was born. It's the only thing I got out of that whole ghost tour, freezing my ass off in Tasmania. Deb says she was in St Kilda in its punk phase. Yeah. I mean, it was really great because it was a whole cultural thing. There was 3RRR Radio, which is a community radio station in Melbourne, which was doing lots of shows about cult movies and cult television. There was Film Buffs Forecast and Danger Lowbrow and all of those things. There was a whole vibe about people liking weird bohemian stuff. The music scene was great with Bachelors of Prague and groups like that. It was a whole vibe, but as prices go up in the cool places, the people who made them cool have had to move out. And that saddens me a little bit. Does that happen in other people's cities? Where there used to be places that were really cool and boho, but they're not now because the price of real estate has gone up enormously. Let me know. Let me know whether in other places that's happened as well, because it's definitely happened in Australia. And it's kind of sad. I remember where Fremantle was very bohemian in the 80s as well, and over in Perth. And now it's very, very touristy. Dodge Morgan says, in the Vikings, brothers Kirk and Douglas and Tony Curtis, American dialogue doesn't quite work, but it's a good film nonetheless. Yeah. Ian says the West End in Brisbane was the same with that alternative stuff. And Adam says, yeah, loads in London, Camden, around my place in Dalston, everywhere, really. Yeah. There isn't that space for people to be a bit mad and creative and just not needing to worry about hustling to make rent as much. And yeah, the cultural richness that comes out of places like that is amazing. Damien says Fremantle is a bit dead. All cafe shops closed up. That's a shame. For Sale says I paid $180 a month for a nice apartment in Manhattan back in 1971. How times have changed. Yeah, it's crazy the amounts. There are YouTube channels where they look at rental accommodation in New York City, and you've got this shoebox with one bedroom, which is also the lounge room, is also the kitchen, and then just like a bathroom off to one side. $1,800 a month. Fuck that. Yeah, landlords and rent takers, screw them. But yeah, prices are crazy. And yes, it is a function of getting older, but I still think there should be that space for young people to be wild. There's this bachelors from Parga were friends who mostly lived in Fitzroy. I was the lead singer in Wild Pumpkins at midnight. We used to hang out a lot with weddings, parties, anything, and Paul Kelly. Cool. Small world. Yeah, Bachelors from Park did a gig at the St Kilda Festival. They did a street thing. There was a big stage at the end of Ackland Street, and lots of bands were doing it. And Bachelors from Prague start, and we're not getting Henry Mars, the lead singer, for half an hour. The rest of the band's just jiving and playing their music. And they couldn't find Henry because Henry had wandered off to find a bottle shop that was open. And half an hour after they start the gig, Henry turns up with a slab of beer and hands the beer out to everybody in the band and hands a couple to the people in the front row of the audience. And then the gig continues because he wasn't going to start his part of it until he could get a beer on a hot summer's day. Peter says it's the same in Adelaide. Alternative cafes and bookshops in the Hindley Street are gone. Third World Books and Hang Up, which sold handmade jewelry and posters and incense back in the 70s. Yeah. King's Cross in Sydney was like that. King's Cross in Sydney was wildly sleazy. It had strip clubs. It had sex workers. It had crime. It had nightclubs. It had steakhouses. But it also had little alleyways and basements where you could buy movie posters and incense and books and things like that. I remember when I was like 18, might have been younger, I went to King's Cross for New Year's Eve by myself. And the streets are like jam-packed with people. It's New Year's Eve. And it gets around midnight. And all of the strippers and sex workers are lined up on the awnings above the street, naked, waving at people. Some memories stay with you. Ian says, love Wild Pumpkins at midnight. Birth of a Nation wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah, just that wildness and that ability for young people to experiment with art. There need to be spaces for that. They can't just be conceptual online spaces. You need places where everybody knows the cool cafe to go to meet people. That stuff needs a home and needs to be nurtured. For Sale says that's a great memory. It is a great memory. There were also like burlesque houses in King's Cross, a place called the Barrel Theatre, where there'd be like comedians and skits and little bits of arty business as well. Kayan says Dublin's the same corporate greed run amok, although I haven't been in the city centre for a few years. Yeah, it does. It's just they're why we can't have nice things. Doug says I lived in Adelaide. Hang Up was the best. I still have a French language Casablanca poster I bought there. Yeah, there were cool things I could get in King's Cross, like Barbarella posters with Jane Fonda and Cynthia Myers, the Playboy centerfold. Her centerfold was a big poster of her completely skyclad. That was a popular poster in the 70s. But yeah, I mean, young people need, first off, there needs to be a space in youth where you live in a group house, you do wild things, you make mistakes, you have your heart broken, you break hearts, you make art, you learn to watch and appreciate various arts, including movies. All that stuff needs a place to be nurtured, because that's where the best of culture comes from. It doesn't come from private school boys who get a radio gig. It comes from wild people in the periphery of things, and people with a passion, and people with an obsession with a certain thing to the point where they learn it. Just we need that. That's one of the things I like about going to the Cinemaniacs movie sessions. Cinemaniacs is a movie appreciation group that does sessions at the Astor Theatre. Wide range of ages, wide range of people, and all of them love unusual movies. This weekend they're doing RoboCop 1 and 2 at the Astor, and I'm going to try to go to that. Just that space for art needs to exist, not just online. That's a good name for a cafe, Peter. The Abode of the Friendly Toad. That is so 60s. But yeah, people, I don't know how it is for you guys, but people bitch so much about young people now. I suppose they always did. But there's just so much shade and shit thrown onto young people. And I don't agree with that. Some of the best movie reviewers I know are in their 20s. And some of the people who are most passionate about cinema are in their 20s. Yes, there are all of us. But there is 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, particularly where I live in Melbourne. There's just such a wide range of passionate people who often are passionate about different aspects of cinema. I mean, my friend Grant Watson is very passionate about Asian cinema, and other people are passionate about upmarket cinema. And I'm down in the gutters with all the grindhouse stuff and the science fiction. But that passion for creative stuff, I really feel it when I go to the Cinemaniac sessions. And yes, I like winning the raffle when I win the raffle. And yes, I like the talks they have before the movies, which contextualize the movies. But that stuff I really, really, really am supportive of and fond of, and I love it. Doug says, who remembers fluorescent posters illuminated by black globes? Yeah, blacklight posters were great. I've actually got a couple of black lights here, but I don't have the posters. But yeah, and it doesn't have to die with youth either. I've been passionate about movies all my life, and I've tried in my small ways to be creative with things in my life. But just that, one of the things that concerns me about billionaires wanting everybody to rent everything forever. Gatekeeping where we go in the future as far as creative stuff's concerned concerns me, particularly when the gatekeepers are demented and diminished human beings like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and all the other billionaires and trillionaires out there. Those guys should never set the cultural agenda, particularly Musk, is an out-and-out Nazi. I love the passion of youth. I love the fact that backrooms and obsession are getting so much traction as movies. They're coming out of people who are in their 20s. I'm passionate about that. I love it. I love to hear new voices, and I love to see new perspectives and cultures I'm not aware of expressing themselves. All of that stuff keeps me loving movies. And yes, mostly I watch old movies. And yes, I watch movies I've already seen to a certain extent. But when I do, I dip into older movies. Oh, sorry, not younger movies, and movies made by young people. And very, very, very rarely am I disappointed by them. And very, very, very rarely do I not learn new things about cinema watching people who are just learning the art. That's the amazing thing about cinema. It shows us the world through others' eyes. Damien says, I went to a midnight show of Robocop when it came out. Did a triple feature, Witches of Eastwick, then Amazing Stories in Robocop. Interestingly, The Witches of Eastwick was on Cinemaniacs just this year. Hasn't aged fantastically well. Zombie Adams says, have I read Guy Smith's Bamboo Gorillas? No, I haven't. And Deb says, also grew up in South Australia and worked as a waitress and singer in Highland Street in my late teens. Highland Street was always a bit sketchy. I must have hit there at the wrong moment when it was all just crims. But I had this real skill once upon a time where I'd go into a city I'd never been to before. And this happened to me in Auckland and Wellington in New Zealand. And it happened to me in a number of places in America. But I used to have this skill of hitting a city, first time ever. And within 10 minutes, I'd find the red light district without ever trying to. So I'd find the red light district in Auckland. I'd find the red light district in Wellington. I found the red light district in Seattle. And I found it, San Francisco wasn't hard, but all these cities, every time I'd end up in a city, I'd find the red light district. And it was never voluntary. It was just me meandering the streets, and suddenly there's red lights and hookers. Maybe my superpower, who knows? So last thing I watched, now that we're getting on, I watched Robert Townsend's Hollywood Hustle, about a young black actor in Hollywood trying not to boost his career by reinforcing the stereotypes of black people in Hollywood in, I think it's the late 1970s. Fantastic movie, all of the pimps and hookers and gangsters and that kind of thing being portrayed in Hollywood. Robert Townsend made the movie basically on credit cards, and it's had a Criterion release. But shit, it's a nice little film. It's funny, it's wise, it talks to the cliches of the way black artists were perceived at the time in Hollywood. Just works really well. And I haven't seen it in a long time, but I really like the perception and wisdom of that film. Yeah, absolutely, Deb. We can learn a lot from people regardless of their age. Adam says he hasn't seen Hollywood Shuffle in a long time. It's worth it. Doug says, I'm playing around with AI animation. Made a couple of videos pairing super spies like Matt Helm, Derek Flint, and Uncle. Yeah, I'm not too keen on AI animation, Doug. I'll use some transitions which are borderline AI in a channel. And the Jazz Alien at the start is a very brief piece of AI. But I've got real concerns about data centers because they're building monolithic data centers in my area. I should actually do a video for the other channel about the fucking enormous data centers that are being built out in where I live because real estate's relatively cheap. Yeah, that's a big concern. And also data centers piss me off because all of the RAM for computers, all of the graphics cards for computers have become 3 times more expensive because data centers are buying up all of those resources. And I rely on a graphics card in this computer here to edit my videos. If that goes, I'm going to have to pay out nearly $1,000 for a new graphics card if that crashes because of data centers. So I'm less fond of them for ultimately selfish reasons than a lot of people are. And I try to minimize my AI slop. The only thing I do is those transitions. And the Jazz Alien I did about 1.5 years ago. And those transitions are more morphing than anything else. But anybody else got movie recommendations? We've got 10 minutes left. 9 minutes, really. Any other people got movie recommendations they've been checking out lately? Because I gave you mine. I showed you mine. Show me yours. This is the time of the live stream when my throat goes. Maybe I should do a list of 1970s comedies I like. Big Elvis, I just watched Sheep Detectives today. I really enjoyed it. Ian saw the second Sisu movie. First was better. It was. Damien watched Empire of the Ants. I'm not sure. I think I like Kingdom of the Spiders better than I like Empire of the Ants. Because Kingdom of the Spiders has that apocalyptic ending. But all the marbles with Peter Falk, says Forso. Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with Peter Falk. I really should watch Wings of Desire again because I remember liking that. And I haven't found a decent copy of it lately. Adam says, I've been off films recently mainly because of footy. See, that's a problem with football. It takes you away from important things. Just kidding. Dealey saw Exit 8 still on anywhere. I recommend it. Saw it at the festival last year. I know that Umbrella are putting out a physical media release. I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to watch it before then, but I will be watching it. Dodge Morgan says, new Spider-Man series, Spider Noir. I didn't mind Spider Noir. I thought it was fine. I watched it in color, but apparently it looks good in black and white as well. Kayan says, I watched the Rise and Rise of Michael Rimmer on YouTube. It's okay. Is that the one with Peter Cook? There was another version of it, but I think the Peter Cook one's good. Peter, fantastic live stream. Here we go. Where's the fart gun? Fart gun, where are you? It's on the floor. This one's for you, Peter. Apparently, the new Minions movies put out a new fart gun. I'm going to have to look into it. But this one I'm happy with. But apparently there's a new one. Peter Cook one with Arthur Lowe, says Damien. Cool. That's the other thing. If you go on to Tubi, I don't know whether it's where you are, but the Ruling Class is on Tubi with Arthur Lowe and Peter O'Toole playing the 8th Earl of Gurney. That's a fantastic film. And I enjoy it every time I watch it. But Valerie Lone was a highlight, says KN. Cool. The other thing, I do want to watch the new Spider-Man movie when it comes out, so I'm going to be watching that because I'm a welded-on superhero movie guy. But lots and lots of interesting things happening. I am, on Wednesday, I'm doing an unboxing of new releases from Umbrella because they sent them to me. And thanks again to Umbrella, but I'm not kind of preempting that. Adam says, Ruling Class is great, but long and shrill. Yeah, but it's the last role of Nigel Green in there playing the Electric Jesus. I like it, and also because it's on Tubi, you can pause it when you need to. But I really should do Tubi recommendations as well, because there's a lot of stuff on there that's weird and obscure that I really want to hit. Going to be back in a minute. I'll just be away from the screen for just a moment. Back again, had change. Damien says there's a Russian Sherlock Holmes series on Tubi, which is interesting. Cool. This is a sort of good YouTube video from Dark Corners earlier about the career of Todd Browning. Nice. But I really have to deep dive into Tubi, and there's a couple of things on Amazon as well. There's lots of cult movies on Amazon these days. So I should dive into that. Problem with doing that, though, is Tubi is different in different countries. And because I do have a VPN in one of my browsers, I may well see whether the particular movies are available on Tubi in a number of countries, and put together a video for that. But the next video is going to be the Umbrella releases, and they're always a bit of fun. There's 2 releases, one of which I've watched, one of which I haven't. So I'm going to spend today or tomorrow watching the other movie. Both of them are on 4K and Blu-ray. But yeah, just we are just so wealthy with movies these days, and having free resources like Tubi, and if you're in Australia, Brolly, which is Umbrella's streaming service. That's got a ton of Australian stuff as well. And in America, you got Pluto TV, and we've also got SBS On Demand, and we've got ABC iView, and of course YouTube. Just a lot of resources for finding and appreciating movies that we hadn't seen before, or that we haven't seen for a long time. And one of the things Tubi here in Australia is doing is there's a big dump of classic Russian films, which aren't particularly political, but there are a lot of really interesting Russian films coming out from like the 30s and 40s. Peter says, I love Trouble with Frank Chateau as a hidden noir gem on Tubi. Cool. And the thing is that sometimes you've got to fight through the algorithm to dive down far enough to find the cool stuff. Adam says, since gaming is going digital only, do you fear for movies on disc? I think it may change position. Physical media is making a big resurgence, at least in Australia. And people are going, I love that movie, but it's not on streaming anymore. I'm going to use my Xbox as it is now. Xbox 5 is probably going to, PlayStation 5 is probably going to be the last one that has a physical drive. But people are going to use those to watch movies. And because movies disappear from streaming platforms, there is a resurgence in physical media. Damien says, Umbrella's put out some films on YouTube like Bluefin. Yeah, they have, and they're starting to do that more. Dodge Morgan says, Elementary, my dear, watching in Russia. Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm spinning for a Tour de Fleece while watching the live stream. Only organised sport I engage in these days. I really should have worn the hat that you gave us, Deb. But guess what, people? We really must knock that naughty clock that says it's time to go. It goes so fast. Our time has passed, and we must end our show. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to Luna for showing up finally. Really appreciate this live stream. Have a good time. Get some sleep if it's dark where you are. Enjoy the rest of your day if it's light where you are. And we'll be back again with 2 weeks. And take care of yourselves in the meantime. And don't let the bastards grind you down. And I'll see you later.